Attention to the secession. It's a term being used to describe the alarming number of women who've recently dropped out of the workforce amid the COVID-19 pandemic. As working moms struggle to keep their jobs while juggling with daycare and childcare, homeschooling, you name it, experts say this economic fallout could have a devastating impact.
It was a tough decision because I really love what I do.
Women nationwide are being swept up in what's being called a she-cession, an unemployment crisis sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic. According to an annual Women in the Workplace study done by McKinsey & Company and LeanIn.org, 1 in 4 women are considering downshifting their careers or resigning due to the pandemic pressures.
My kids are 11 and 14. There's no way I could leave them 100% doing remote learning alone at home by themselves, especially my youngest son, who's autistic.
Tamisha Isaac, a single mom of 2, says she had no choice but to resign from her job as an HIV counselor and outreach coordinator when the pandemic struck.
The job that I did, it required me to actually be in front of people. If I contracted COVID, what would happen to my children?
According to an analysis by the National Women's Law Center, a staggering 865,000 women left the labor force in September, more than 4 times the number of men. Women of color were hit the hardest, with 324,000 Latina women and 58,000 black women unemployed, and single moms finding the crisis especially challenging.
Many times we actually have to ration our food and make food stretch. It's hard.
Women are expected to work 40 to 50 hours a week and also now be the primary caretaker full-time for children. And so faced with the challenge, many women decided that they had no choice but to leave the workforce.
Dr. C. Nicole Mason, CEO of the Institute for Women's Policy Research, says the long-term impact of this she-cession could be devastating.
At the beginning of the year, we were over 51% of the workforce for the first time in over a decade. And the pandemic came along and wiped out all of those gains. It might take about 10 years to recover those losses.
I was giving so much to my job and it was so stressful. There was no relief valve.
Ellen Kawana, a Seattle mom of 2, says she resigned from her dream job at a strategic communications firm when increased demands at home became too much to juggle.
I was working 45 hours a week. My husband's a healthcare worker, so he was working 80, 90-hour weeks. Everything was on me to keep the household running. I just couldn't do it all.
You're not taking care of yourself. The whole entire sustainability part of this plan is not really going to go too far.
For women who manage to stay on the job, Violette de Ayala, CEO of the women's networking group FemCity and mom of 3 herself, has some suggestions for work-life balance.
What works best is really creating time blocks. And the other thing that's really helped out is creating a family calendar. It seems to really help when people understand, here are the things that I have, here are my time blocks, here's how you fit in. Give yourself some grace right now. You're doing the best you can with what you've got, and that's good enough.
For a deeper dive into the issues, visit the National Women's Law Center at nwlc.org.